All right, guys, welcome back. It's Friday, March 27th. Hopefully you had no problem accessing the video yesterday, in which some online procedures, the way the class is going to work, were explained, and we also began OTN 6, as well as looked at your Unit 5 review guide. All right, so a couple quick reminders before we get started with our class for the day. Remember your Coleridge reading, which is due Monday of next week. Going to need a reading check email for that. All right. Remember to continue working on your OTN for the Solitary Reaper, OTN 6. All right. We are going to continue working on OTN 6 today and finish OTN 6 on Monday. All right, so it's a little schedule change, but we're just making sure that we're going slow, making sure that we're getting our feet wet before we, as we are adjusting to this new platform, okay? And you need to continue preparing for your Unit 5 test, which is going to be either at the end of next week or the beginning of the week that follows next week, all right? Your sonnet is 50% of your grade for that unit test, all right? So you want to make sure that you are drafting that sonnet. You want to make sure that you're working through your Italian sonnet. So if you want more information about how that sonnet needs to be structured, then you can go back to yesterday's video and look at the explanation of how that sonnet will be graded as I talked through the review guide in yesterday's video lecture. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in to our content for the day. An analysis of the Solitary Reaper. So yesterday we established an SQ3R for the Solitary Reaper, just trying to develop a basic comprehension of the text before we get into an analysis of the language of the text and how that language develops the ideas, the themes, and helps us to interpret the meaning of the text as a whole, okay? So today we're going to be working through that analysis very carefully, all right? So in pursuit of that, let's quickly review the basic details of the text established in our SQ3R. All right, our speaker is an English traveler in the Scottish Highlands. All right, if you remember the cultural distinctions between these two things and these two places play a role in the meaning of the poem. England was traditionally more culturally sophisticated, more of a cultural center, and the Scottish Highlands in particular were sort of on the margins of that cultural sophistication. So here we have someone who is conventionally associated with cultural sophistication that might be related to art and artistic excellence, and the Scottish Highlands, a person and a location typically not associated with cultural sophistication and artistic excellence. All right, so the speaker is an English traveler who is in the Scottish Highlands listening to and being amazed by the beauty of a Highland Lass's song, The Solitary Reaper. All right, genre and form, it's a lyric poem. It's structured into 4 octets, which is 8-line stanzas that are structured as follows: A, B, A, B. So the first 4 lines rhyme alternatively, and the second 4 lines rhyme in couplets, C, C, D, D. Each line is written in iambic tetrameter, which is a meter that basically has 8 total syllables divided into 4 rising feet. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. All right, so 4 feet rising, 8 total syllables. Now, the title, as we talked about yesterday in a little more detail, emphasizes the singularity and the individuality of the Reaper, who is a symbol and an embodiment of Wordsworth's personal theory of beauty. All right. Now, this word we typically throw around, okay, without really meditating on what beauty is and what it means to engage with beauty. Now, for the Christian learner, or for anyone, any human being for that matter, it's very important for you to think about what beauty is. All right, you're actually commanded in Scripture to set your mind on things that are noble and good and beautiful. And you can't do that if you don't have some notion of what beauty is and what beauty is for and why it might be good to set your mind on that kind of thing, why it might be good to meditate on that kind of thing. So obviously Wordsworth's not a Christian, but Wordsworth is going to offer us a very thoughtful reflection on the nature of beauty. And it's communicated to us in this symbol, all right, of the reaper, the solitary reaper. Okay, so the central question we're going to be trying to unpack over the course of the next two classes is, how does the speaker's poetic style, how does the actual language on the page develop the symbolic significance of this solitary reaper? Okay, a quick review of basically what happens in the poem on a literal level. This is not even close to what the poem means, but on a literal level, basically what happens is the speaker comes across the reaper who is singing while she works. She's harvesting grain. He wonders what the theme of her song is, like the meaning of her song is. No one can interpret the meaning of the song for him, but he makes peace with that fact and carries the music with him in his heart as he goes off into the rest of his life. All right? So, central question that we should be asking ourselves through the course of our analysis of these first two stanzas. Today we're going to be working on these first two stanzas. All right? What and how does the solitary reaper embody the nature of beauty? Okay, so let's jump into this first stanza and let's analyze the connotations of the images, the figures of speech, the word choice, the syntactical structures and patterns and rhythms used in this first stanza. Okay, Wordsworth writes, "Behold her, single in the field, yon solitary Highland lass, reaping and singing by herself. Stop here or gently pass." Okay, the first two words, the speaker issues a command in the imperative tense to his reader. He tells the reader to behold her. Now, this signals something about the nature of beauty, even in the first two lines of the poem. First and foremost, it should be, it needs to be, it is imperative to you to behold it, to set your mind on it, to meditate on it. And the word behold, all right, literally means to see, to think about, to view. And in order to behold the solitary reaper as a reader of poetry, it should be noted that you have to do something, right? You don't look out your window and see the solitary reaper. You can't turn on your TV and see the solitary reaper. To behold her, you must engage with her where? In your mind, in your imagination. It is it's a process that requires you to actively engage. In other words, beauty cannot be beheld. Beauty cannot be consumed. Beauty cannot be understood, and you cannot set your mind on that which is beautiful, that which is valuable, that which is worthy of being adored, without engaging in the process of consciously stopping and beholding it. Behold her, he commands. Single in the field, yon solitary Highland lass, reaping and singing by herself. Stop here or gently pass. Alone she cuts the grain. Okay, I want you to notice something that is being re-emphasized in the language of the first stanza over and over again. She is single. She is solitary. She is by herself. She is alone. All of this emphasizes the solitary reaper's individuality. The fact that she is set apart. The fact that she is holy, different, distinguished. This once again signals something about the nature of beauty, that beauty iterates itself in ways that are transcendent and relatable. Okay, in other words, it's something that the speaker sees and recognizes and shares in enjoying the beauty of the song with her. But, all right, it is also something that is simultaneously, even though it is connective and individual, it's also something that is simultaneously individual, specific. Notice also the fact that she is described as being in the field. She's immersed in a natural setting. So Wordsworth, as a romantic, is obviously going to go out of his way to emphasize the fact that his symbol of unmitigated beauty, his meditation on the nature of beauty, is something that is going to be immersed in nature. Part of what he implies is that beauty is inherent to the natural world. Beauty is a part of the DNA of living things. Beauty is a part of the DNA of the good world. Now, obviously, Wordsworth didn't believe in a creator God like perhaps you do if you're a Christian. But what Wordsworth does share with you is the belief that the natural world, though it is capable of deeply bad things, Christians would say because of the fall, it has beauty etched in its DNA. And so when you immerse yourself in the natural world, you become, you are connected to the kind of natural beauty that is part of the DNA of the universe, the world that you inhabit. Yon solitary Highland lass. Now, it's interesting that she's a Highland lass. Right? This character, who the solitary reaper, is described not just as any old girl, any old woman, but rather a Highland lass. Which signals something to the intelligent reader. She's a cultural outsider. She's an unconventional source of beauty that defies established norms and customs. In other words, according to Wordsworth's romantic understanding of the nature of beauty, beauty is not something that is conventional. Beauty is not something that can be normed or customary, but rather is something that is organic, something that can be found all over the world. Okay, so typically poetry and art, specifically in this era of world history, the Victorian era or the early Victorian era, most art was focused on the exploits of aristocrats and wealthy, high-class people. Here, Wordsworth turns his attention to a working-class, poor woman who makes her living with her hands, working in the field. She's a peasant. She's a laborer. She's perhaps the least important, least respected member of an agrarian society. Least important, obviously very important in a practical sense, but what I mean is a political or social sense. Okay? And what is the Highland lass doing? She's reaping and singing by herself. I want you to notice the parallel actions, reaping and singing. Okay, so both of these actions are delivered in the participial form, reaping and singing. The participial form of those words help indicate that it's continual. It's something that she's doing over and over again, and these actions, right, are ingrained in one another. She is reaping as she is singing, and she's singing as she is reaping over and over again. Okay, so to reap is to cut down, to harvest, to kill something, okay, for the life of someone else, for the life of something else. And to sing, alternatively, is to create and bring life to a melody. She does both of these actions, one that sort of has connotations of death, reaping, and one that has connotations of life and creation, singing. She does both of these things continually, constantly. So as a symbol of the nature of Wordsworth's understanding of beauty, she, right, is an embodiment of the sublime natural cycles of life leading to death and death leading to life that are inherent in the natural world and also part of the art or the work that she is doing. Okay. Similarly, a little bit 2 lines later, she cuts and binds the grain and sings a melancholy strain. Okay, these two juxtaposing verbs here, cuts and binds. One has violent connotations, cuts, and one has healing connotations, binds. Okay, so too her art, so too beauty in general, both cuts and binds, both meditates on realities of death and the joys of life. Okay, it cuts to the core of a person, exposing that which is broken, even as it binds up the wounds that it might create. That's what good art does. That's what good beauty does. Okay? Stop here or gently pass. That's another interesting command, right? This is another command that suggests very much like behold her. Okay? He says, in order to behold her, what do you have to do? You have to stop. Okay? So this command suggests that experiencing beauty is a choice that requires, okay, he gives you a choice. Stop here or you can leave. So you can skip it, right? You can skip setting your mind on things that are good, setting your mind on things that are valuable, setting your mind on things that are beautiful. You can skip this poem. You can skip the Solitary Reaper's song. You can skip the sunrise. You can skip the beauties of God, and you can skip the beauties of the gospel. You can skip beauty. But if you are not going to, then you do have to stop. The line connotes the sense or suggests the larger sense about the nature of beauty, that it is something that you must elect to engage with. It's something you have to behold. The poet continues, "Oh, listen, for the veil profound is overflowing with the sound." All right, so the visual image created by this line puts the speaker, all right, in a kind of elevated position looking down into a valley where there's a field of grain where the reaper is singing and reaping by herself, all alone, and the song is filling up the valley and overflowing to the position where the speaker is at, overflowing with the sound. Okay. This image simply communicates or connotes the sense that her song is transcendent. It's connective. It overflows the valley, right? And meets the speaker where he stands. So even as the Solitary Reaper is individual, specific, her song is also connective and relational, filling up the world, filling up the veil, filling up the holes, the valleys, with overflowing, extra abundant goodness and beauty. Second stanza. No nightingale did ever chaunt more welcome notes to weary bands of travelers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. in this small scene, all right, let's not overcomplicate this. We just got a little small scene where the speaker is comparing the reaper's song to a nightingale, a songbird's chaunt that blesses weary and tired travelers in a desert land, okay, in an empty, dry space. And these, and although, right, this band of weary travelers, right, no doubt need water, no doubt need food, no doubt need all the practical concerns of their journey and their needs met. They, although they cannot eat, although they cannot drink the nightingale's song, the notes are welcome to their ears. They are a comfort in a dry and weary land. So too beauty, although perhaps not practical. You can't eat beauty unless you're at eating like a really well cooked meal or something like that. You can't eat a song, right? You can't use a song to protect you from a cold winter. Your practical necessities are important, and the weary travelers obviously need those practical necessities taken care of. But the song, despite the fact that it's not going to meet their immediate physical needs, meets a different need. It's welcome for another reason, because it ministers to their souls. It ministers to their hearts, whatever metaphor for whatever is inside of you that needs more than just food and water to survive. The portion of you that needs access to beauty, the portion of you that needs access to truth. That portion of you, Wordsworth says, is ministered to by the reaper's song. It makes traveling through the Arabian sands. It makes inhabiting the shady haunts possible. The next parallel scene. A voice so thrilling ne'er was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. Okay, this parallel scene, right? It's just another scene comparing the reaper's song to another songbird. Compares the reaper's song to a bird's notes that interrupt the silence of the farthest Hebrides. Okay, so the connotations of the image of the farthest Hebrides. The Hebrides were islands, largely uninhabited islands off the coast of Scotland. All right, and so these islands just give us an image, a mood of isolation. Okay, the silence of the seas. Now, obviously, seas are never completely silent, right? There's waves, but here, what the poet, what is communicated or connoted through the image is a isolated, lonely, quiet existence. And into that isolation, into that loneliness, right, comes the thrilling song of the cuckoo bird. The springtime song of the cuckoo bird. Okay? It breaks the silence. It breaks the isolation of life, which can be lonely, which can seem distant. And the parallel comparison, okay, both of these comparisons to songbirds together operate and develop the symbolic significance of the reaper's song in their own way. Okay? Notice, the birds are not being paid to sing their songs. No one, they don't get a bird's song. Doesn't, no one comes in. You don't tip a bird for their song with a worm. Here's a worm, nice song, right? It's just in their instincts. It's in their impulse to Twitter and tweet and sing. Isn't that strange? Just like the solitary reaper's practical work of reaping her harvest, as she goes through that work, she sings, she creates beauty. It's instinct. It's what you do. It's a kind of overabundant, inherent, natural tendency that is an illustration of common grace that blesses the weary, that blesses the lonely, that transcends the valley, transcends and fills up the vale, and brings us together, that breaks the silence of the seas. Those are the first two stanzas. The second two stanzas I'm going to analyze tomorrow. Actually, not tomorrow, on Monday. All right, so make sure you're working on your OTN. These first two stanzas as a whole, once again, are meant to embody the nature of beauty, something that you should set your mind on over the course of the weekend. Set your mind on things that are beautiful, noble, good. That is something that is good for you. All right, have a great day.